Hello, my name is Greg York, and I'm a member of the West Star class of 2012. As part of our Leadership Legacy Project, I'm honored today to speak with Mr. Jim Fitzhugh. The goal of this project is to help future generations understand the personal philosophies of influential leaders and other various issues related to their own success. Mr. James Fitzhugh was born in Dyer County and graduated high school in 1941. He attended Memphis State University and the University of Toledo. He served in the U.S. Air Force as a bomber pilot in World War II. Upon his return from military service in 1945, he joined the Bank of Ripley as a bank clerk and worked his way up to president, and now serves as chairman of the board of directors. He has served as president of the JCs, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club, and other civic functions, including president of the West Tennessee Area Council of Boy Scouts. He served as mayor of Ripley for 2 terms and has served on numerous boards, including the State Banking Board under 2 governors. He was president of the Tennessee Bankers Association and a board member of the Memphis branch of the Federal Reserve Bank. He was on the original task force to seek out and find industry for Lauderdale County, which was successful in his efforts. And those efforts were instrumental in creating jobs for Lauderdale County. His commitment to the bank and the community is surpassed only by his love for his family, Frances, his bride of 67 years, his son, daughter, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I'm honored today to be here to talk to Jim. We've got some questions, and we're going to have a conversation about business, about community, and some about just personal things. So, Jim, thank you for agreeing to answer a few questions today.
Well, thank you, Greg. I'm honored to be selected. I don't know what the criteria was, but you must have been at the bottom of the barrel. And I want you to know that I've been a supporter of the West Star Leadership Program since its inception. I was trying to recall, I think I went to a first meeting in our community at the Fullen's house years and years ago. And I very much appreciate you being involved in the leadership of it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's been a great experience so far. Jim, I'm going to break this down and ask, again, some questions on business and community and personal. And the first one, kind of under the business category, is it just in general, if I said describe your philosophy on business, how would you answer that?
Well, philosophy, to me, is being fair and truthful about whom you're dealing with, whether it's industry or your customer or the citizens of the community in which you live. I just think that's the key to it.
Mm-hmm.
And people have faith in you when they feel like that you're shooting straight with them.
Absolutely. If I were to ask you what experience or person has influenced your success as a business leader or a community leader, how would you answer that? It could be an experience or a person. What has influenced you in your success more than anything?
Greg, that's difficult because there have been many people that I've been in contact with through the years, but I guess my first boss was an attorney. He was district governor of Rotary Club, was B.C. Durham, Jr. And he served in the state legislature, and he kind of took me in hand and gave me a good education, not only in banking, but in life, being fair with people. I'd have to say he was at the top of the list.
What experience do you think has molded you and influenced you?
Well, the opportunities that I've had in the community, but you mentioned a while ago about the industry. It's given me an opportunity to travel all across America seeking industry. And if you allow me to, there are 2 particular industries that I'd like to touch base about.
Sure.
back in the late 1950s. There were 8 of us that went to Owasso, Michigan, in trying to induce Universal Electric Company. They make fractional horsepower motors. Matter of fact, they made the small horsepower motor that went on the Norden bomb site that I was familiar with during World War II. And the family, the Hardy family, that owned the company, and the experience we had with trying to entice him to come to Ripley, and we were successful. And the other one was Marvin Windows of War Road, Minnesota. There's 3 of us that went there to entice Marvin to come, and it was quite an experience. Mr. Bill Marvin, who's gone on to his reward now. I shall never forget when we met in the upstairs office of their old plant in War Road, and the questions and the coffee that was prevalent. It was an interesting experience, and they too were a family, owned and operated by the Marvin family and their children. I never shall forget, after we had made our plea and that we went around the factory grounds, and George Marvin, one of the brothers, was in his shirt sleeves, and it was 28 below zero that February day, and he was out there showing us how they took care of the salvage products. And I get cold every time I think about that. But I was also impressed when we went back and Mr. Bill says, we made up our mind and we're coming to Ripley. And that's one of the greatest things that has happened to me in my business career, because they're still here operating, and it's one of the reasons that our community is successful.
Well, the story goes that anyone that would come to War Road, in January? February, with 20 below to make a pitch, they had to be committed to it. So,
well, Mr. Kreiner and the plant manager of Universal made the trip, and it was very profitable and continues to be profitable for our county.
I know Marvin celebrated their 30-year anniversary, yeah. And you were instrumental on that, and it's affected thousands of people's lives.
Yes, sir. And we have another plant, American Greetings, that's going to celebrate their 40th year this year. We were successful in getting them from Cleveland, Ohio.
That's great.
So that's been a big impact in my business career.
Any funny stories come to mind when you think about just business here at the bank? Is anything that just really gives you a chuckle when you think about?
Well, you know, when I went to work with the bank, it was a very small bank, and we kept 2 ledgers. All we had was accounts behind the teller's window, and I was operating as a teller. The only thing I knew was a $1 bill, a $5 bill, a $10 bill, so forth. I could distinguish between the 2. And I knew this gentleman. He was a big farmer in what we call the Ashport Bottom, and he came in and he had a $1,000 check he wanted to cash on his own account. Well, as a habit, I turned around and thumbed through the ledger till I came across his name, and I was halfway embarrassed. He had about $75,000 in his account, and I turned back around and he said, "Son, there's enough there, isn't it?" And that has stuck with me. So I've been careful about things like that.
You've been careful about that that's good. Well, that's good. When you think about the community, we talked a little bit about companies coming in, but are there any other events that have happened in the past that has caused our community to be as successful as it is?
One thing that comes to mind, Greg, right off, is education. Our community years and years ago provided the facilities to house our school children, buildings and school grounds. And then we was successful in getting a technology center in our community that now is the going thing. The university costs are just out of reach of our people, particularly in these tough economic times. And then UT Martin branch. So education has got to be one of the factors that I feel like we still have a long way to go, but it's making an impact, and the people are understanding that they need to further their education. I'd say that is one of our strong points right today.
Very good. Jim, you had, as I read through your bio, you have just years and years of community service, and based on that experience, if you were going to give some advice to community leaders today, what would your advice be to those that want to work and serve the community?
Well, first of all, I think they need to be involved in the community. By that I mean in the churches, in the Chamber of Commerce, and in the civic clubs, and then be truthful and fair with whomever they're dealing with.
You've mentioned that twice. That's really important, isn't it?
Well, you know, my industry is going through a critical time now. Bankers are not the most popular people in the world, and it's all because of greed. The housing problem is greed, and they're still paying some of our leaders millions of dollars a year when their bank is being bailed out by government money. And we're not a popular industry, and we in a community bank and in communities like this just need to be fair and truthful with the people in the community, and that's what I would if a young person came to me, what do I need to do? Those would be some of the things I'd mention to him.
On the personal side, I mean, I know you were a bomber pilot. You've mentioned that you were a child of the Depression. So the question I've got for you is, do you remember an event in your youth that had a major impact on your life that just made, and there could have been more than one, but just such an impact or made such an impression that made you the man you are today?
Greg, I think there are two things that pop right out in my mind. As you know, at my age, I was a Great Depression child, and I was 14 years old when my dad, who was a truck driver, lost his job. This was in 1937. And my mother was a worrier, and I see her go to bed at night with tears in her eyes, wondering where the next meal was coming from. And that made a terrific impact on me. And I was fortunate enough to be carrying papers, making about $1.50 a week, and we lived on that for a couple of weeks for a little bit. And the other great impact was I was 18 years old when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. And people in my generation, that's got to be a great impact, and had to be a great impact on their lives. We didn't know which way to go. Most of the people were streaming to the enlistment offices to enlist. Those two would be the great.
Yeah, I can't hardly imagine. If you had to think about, we talked about philosophy and you mentioned truthful, but just personally, your philosophy on life, maybe as you know, whether or not it's a business leader, a friend, or your children, kind of what's your philosophy on life and happiness and fulfillment?
Well, that could cover several areas, Greg. My philosophy is, I hate to wear that term out, but to be fair and truthful with the people you're dealing with, and to encourage the young people to participate in things, not only sports, but in the library, other community activities that are involved. It'll make adults out of them. And raising children is to be fair and don't spare the rod, but don't do it excessively. I think we've gotten away from that with a lot of our children. They're not disciplined, and a good discipline never hurt anyone. They might not like it, but it goes a long way into you develop into manhood and womanhood, I think. That's about my philosophy.
Well, when you think about funny stories, personal, not business related, what's something that maybe you and Francis and Craig and y'all just get a laugh about that you don't mind sharing? What's a good funny story about Jim Fitzhugh?
Well, we are awfully proud of our son Craig and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. I guess the one that we laugh about, and it was serious at the time, I was late to my own wedding.
And you've made it 67 years still.
Yes. What happened, I was graduating and getting my wings, and the colonel decided we didn't have enough hours, so he cut our leave times. He extended our leave time, and I was 3 days late getting home to my wedding, and the rumor got around Ripley, a small town, that Jim Fitzhugh had stood up Francis Craig, the girl that was married. We tell that story and everybody gets a laugh about it, but we finally got together and married.
67 years.
Yeah.
What's been the secret to that?
Don't go to bed at night mad at each other.
I've heard that before, and you believe that, huh?
Yes, I do. Couples are going to have arguments, but somebody asked me the other day, said, "Do you think that 67 years is going to stick?" I said, "Well, I can't give her up now. I overmarried to begin with. I'm going to stick with her."
That's great. Well, Jim, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.
Well, I'd like to encourage the people to participate and take part in this. They learn a lot about our community that they live in.
Thank you,
Greg.
Appreciate it.